the conversation has been great, and with all the shares, I really, really appreciate all the contributions. Um, so talking about how we can break stereotypes, you guys have really nailed it, right? You've talked about being a good human. You're in competition with yourself from the day before. So what does that look like? Well, when we're talking about ownership of our choices and actions, um, I know some people joined the call late, and I think we had spoken about this before. Might have been one of Rod's comments, but it's a choice to be your authentic self. Yes, there's a lot of things that are coded in language. There's a lot of barriers that people use. Again, we're talking stereotypes. They look at us, they listen to us, all kind of things are put into a context to try to put us in a box. But if you own your choices and your actions, don't blame it on, is the system, I won't get into that in a second. But yes, you cannot blame others or the system for the way you are choosing to act. No one makes you do anything. So choose your words. Choose to be yourself. Choose to be the same in front of all different types of groups of people. What are other ways we can do that? I talked about this before. Um, Being a supporter or an ally of marginalized groups other than your own, because that's what makes community. That's what's going to make a movement stronger, by understanding how we are all marginalized by white supremacy. And I want to speak quickly about the difference between being a supporter and an ally. I saw something on social media a few weeks ago, and this guy was talking about what an ally or supporter means to him, and it resonated deeply. An ally is someone who has to give up something. They've got to sacrifice, right? Because when you're sacrificing for that marginalized group, you understand, you might have a better understanding of what that's going to look like. You're actually going to have some skin in the game. You're going to lose something in siding with who is being oppressed or who is being stereotyped in the bias against. Being a supporter is a little different than an ally, because you may not sacrifice something. A supporter is definitely financial, but you may support in other ways too. Maybe you hang a sign or something, but an ally is definitely more active in their support of the marginalized group. I just wanted to make that distinction because both are necessary to break stereotypes. Neither one of them should be judged for their actions, but both of them are important, but they are different. Also, how do we break stereotypes? Why is there such a big push these days on diversity and equity and inclusion? Because representation and inclusion matters. We talked earlier in the conversation about the different stereotypes. If it's playing basketball or football, that's the way that you can make it in the United States as a black man, right? Well, if you don't see someone who looks like you that is doing some kind of scientific work, if you don't see someone who's a financial analyst, if you don't see someone in public health, how do you know that that's even possible? How do you dream that? How do you reach for that, right? If you don't see someone who is coding things, how do you even know that that's a thing for you? Representation and inclusion helps to continue to break down those barriers of stereotypes. And lastly, education. Education, education, education. I'm not speaking of formal education. I'm speaking of, in these days and times, we have so much access to a lot of material. Now it's up to you to use your discernment, right? You've got to figure out what is crap and what is not. But we have so much material at our fingertips that there's no excuse not to be educated on some things. And I would also encourage, don't look for just one opinion. If you're going to be educated, you have to look at opposing opinions as well, right? Let me come back out here from sharing my screen. A lot of times what's talked about, I want to use this example, CNN versus Fox News. Those are kind of the two binary news programs or news stations at the moment that are national. One is right wing, one is considered neutral or left wing. Okay. But neither one of them is a friend of the program. Let me be clear. Neither one of them, because well, Fox is intentionally doing what they do, and that's fine. CNN thinks they're being an ally by presenting the opposite of what Fox News does. But they're not really. They're having their own version of what they think is right. You know? So I would encourage anyone, fine, listen to Fox News. If you think it's crazy, do the research on yourself or for yourself, right? If you see CNN and you see something, do the research for yourself. Dig deeper, dig behind underneath the surface. There is enough material out there that somewhere between this version and this version, the truth is in here. But you've got to be able to find that. You can't read a headline and stereotype what you think based on that headline.